Това може ли само да си го сложиш на ризата? Не, тук примерно.
Как се слага?
Има
Лепка ли?
Не, магнит отзад. Чакай, така.
Аха.
Трябва да се пъпне това отзад.
Къде са пък?
Това да е отзад.
Аха, разбрах.
Да.
Разбрах.
Да.
Това е за новите договори.
Супер. Той много такова нещо не съм виждал.
Не, това е за спикърите, които ще... Имаме два микрофона, той е мобилен, може да, ако някой има някакви въпроси да го раздаваме, той Бойко ще го вземе него.
Добре. Супер.
Ама ако си прав, виж, че ако си прав не се вижда. Така ли? Еми... И аз едни да видим?
Ама той няма да се вижда. За лайв стрим да вижда само тази част от човека.
Трябва да го дигнем някъде по-високо.
Ма той няма да е прав.
А защо с микрофон? С микрофон ще си говоря. Ще подавам микрофон.
Аз имам някакво нещо.
И аз ще съм водещ.
Да.
Да, той е единствения. Аз само съм тук за цвят.
Ти откриваш и закриваш.
Да.
Ето,
подготвя се все малко да някой въпрос ще да задам така.
Да.
Но основно си ти днеска звезда. Така че...
Няма да се чуеш.
Така е по-добре. Никарагуа помогне.
Да, ще го кажа. Много супер, че днес сте успели да дойдете. Това е много яко.
Изминалия път май преди година ходих да гледам много професионално, сега ще подпълвам.
Освен да пътува, може да помага.
Камери, няколко медии.
Пак с камера, това е лайф стрим ли? Да, в момента. Аз предлагам да почваме. Аз съм Бойко.
Драго. Писахме си през добри.
Да, точно така. Супер радост, че си спомня с къде. Много добре. Добре, предлагам. Член си. Добре. Предполагам, че още хора ще изсипат после, така че... Тук са ми после въпросите, обаче трябва да ми ги дадеш. Да ти стана как да стана? Hey, go, Mili Kora. Sit down, please, right now. Thank you so much. Faster, please. Thank you. You're so kind. I love you. Please make some photos. S'il vous plaît. So, thanks everybody for coming today. It's a great pleasure. We have a great distinguished guest, but he will introduce himself afterwards. Right now we're making a few photos. It's a pleasure. Happy to see you here. So it's really nice that you're all here, but we're making a few photos right now because I actually got the chance to make an interview with Forbes Bulgaria, And for the last 4 months, we're not able to issue the article because there were different difficulties, issues. And right now I'm missing a photo in front of many people, which should be my usual area of expertise. And I'm talking in front of people, so they're now making these photos. So hopefully this article will be able to be issued in probably in the next magazine. I don't know. Let's see. So thanks everybody for coming. I'm expecting a few more people. Oh, should I make some posts right now? Looking beautiful? Okay, so thanks everybody for coming. Today we'll be talking with Boyan Rashev about very interesting topics. Most of them will be on different precious materials, metals. For me, the most important point always will be how we connect that to financial freedom and to freedom itself in general. So how we connect that to potential semi-passive income, because I've never seen passive income. If you're a king, you might have like passive income, but for the normal people, the only thing I know is semi-passive. So all questions, all topics, all discussions, I'll always try to go around that, but he knows about that. And it's a great honor for him to be here. So I'm really grateful that you took the time and you were very, very reactive. So this is great. Of course, thanks to Dobry. Yeah, of course. And for making the content, right? And putting in good work for us. So that's all for now from me. I give the word to the guru.
To the guru. Thank you for the intro. How should I start? Can you hear, right? You hear. I start from the beginning, many years ago, to give you some background information and so that you know who is talking, and so that you have a reason to believe what I'm saying. Yeah? It was a kind of last-minute decision back in '96 when I decided to study geology out of mathematical high school. And at this time, nobody studied geology, and there was an exam in geology for Sofia University, so I had to make an exam in something that I never studied. Great experience. I got the highest grade. So, and then I started geology in Sofia University. Then I got a scholarship in '98. Most of you maybe remember. Was not very, nice time in Bulgaria. So when I got this 900 Deutschmarks scholarship, it was a huge amount of money. I left and I studied then environmental and resource management for 5 years in Germany. Meanwhile, a semester in Vienna, a semester in Caracas in Venezuela. Then 2003, I came back to Bulgaria. Next day after I got the diploma in Germany, I came back to Bulgaria and I started working in the NGO field, in the environmental field. At this time, I was kind of dark green, if I can say so. Then 3 years among the NGOs in some kind of consultancy businesses. 2006, we opened our own consultancy company with my wife. We had a small child and one laptop, and we opened a company with the idea to sell sustainability advisory in Bulgaria before we entered the European Union. Can you imagine?
Very brave.
The question from our friends was, what are you going to eat? Almost 2 years ago, we sold this company to Ernst & Young. So I left with quite a bit of money. We sold the company when we were 28 people. 28 people in sustainability advisory in Bulgaria is a monster. So we were kind of almost a monopoly business. Thanks to my previous geological background, we worked a lot with mining metallurgical industries, energy, everything you can imagine in the energy field, chemical industries. The heavy industry is my favorite part of the business because you make a difference there. If you don't make a difference if you go to, I don't know, to a bank or whatever, in terms of the environment. And here I come to the, financial freedom part. You all remember COVID, March 2020, when the stock exchange everywhere crashed. At this time, I knew in advance Nikolai Vassiliev and Nikki and Nikola Yanku from Expat. Expat is an asset management company. They were chasing me for many years to become their client. So in March 2020, I just called Nikola and told him, look, I will become your client now, because now is the time. Everybody is afraid, to buy something. That's why everything is cheap. I have to admit, I did something that is completely wrong. Don't do it. At this time, we had 6 loans, 2 loans to banks, 2 loans to companies, and 2 loans to friends, because we were building our house with my wife. And we got a 7th loan to start investing. A little bit, not an investment advice, as people say. Anyway, so I gave them some money to Expat, and their business is to manage the assets of their clients. But I also gave them another portion of money, and I told them, guys, I want to manage this portion. So they gave me one of the girls in the office just to tell her what to buy and what to sell. 10 months after that, beginning of 2021, Nicola called me and said, look, we made 35%, which is great. But you made 110%, which means that you kind of understand our business a little bit better than us. So let's see what we can do with this. And then we decided that they will open for their other clients the opportunity to follow my personal portfolio, which then became an investment fund. Because you cannot really manage this properly. When you have, 30 positions, to buy for everybody the same positions is very tricky. So they created Expat Natural Resources in October 22. It was kind of bad timing, because this time was, the war just started, so everything was very high. And it was not easy to, navigate when the raw materials and energy prices were going down, because the war had already started and everything was a little bit getting into normality. And I was still managing my company, which it's not easy, to try to manage a company at the same time, try to kind of manage a fund. So now I left, practically I left EY in April 25. And the last year we have finally nice results, proper results. So from the beginning of, from January 2025 up until today, it's about 75% growth, which is not bad. And this is, as I said, it's all related to natural resources. Precious metals, industrial metals, energy, oil, gas, coal, this kind of stuff, renewables, and companies that are also servicing these fields. Mm-hmm. And some other special things. But as you can imagine, last year was especially important with respect to gold and silver, which made the big, growth in terms of price of the metals themselves, and then the mining shares. We actually invest practically almost always in the shares of mining companies and the shares of companies that are related to mining. This is a very specific field. So it's a field where everything moves like this. And it's very tricky. You either make big money or you lose big money, This is the reality.
But it depends, because usually we take risk as volatility, but the real risk is your value of the asset going to zero, right? So
Yeah.
this is the real risk, because if you take other assets, okay, crypto, for instance, okay, it also does like this, but it doesn't go to zero. But I would say crypto has greater chance, still for Bitcoin probably less, but greater chance going to zero than mining companies, potentially. I don't know.
Potentially, unfortunately, I can tell you that mining companies can go to zero very easily.
Okay.
Depending on the jurisdiction of their deposits. So in Congo, they can go to zero very fast, believe me. In countries like, I can give you an example, Mexico now. You know what is happening now in Mexico, right? Something like 3 weeks ago, there is this very nice Canadian, Viswa Silver is the name of the company. They are junior company, so which means they are looking for deposits. They don't have extraction, so they don't make any cash flow. They are looking for the big silver deposit, and they found one, huge, probably the biggest new deposit in the world for silver. And these guys were making great drills. So the junior companies, I'm going now into different topics. If you have specific questions, just stop me and ask.
Just one thing, probably just to say a little bit about the structure tonight. So we will have our conversation probably for the next 1 hour. We have like 4 or 5 questions we've exchanged with him. Then we will have around 20 minutes for your questions. So you can ask directly.
But you can ask anytime.
Great. So
because I'm talking about specific things, and some of them may be not quite clear.
Yeah. And after that, we should be finished by 20 to 9. And at 9 o'clock, we have reservation at the Happy in Mall of Sofia. So whoever wants to come, there's place enough. And there is a chat, there's the mingling option after a lot of information we should be taking today.
So this company, just to be aware of what are the risks in this business. This company found a huge deposit. They were increasing their reserves with new drill results. Every several weeks, they got something great. And then suddenly there is the news that 5 of their employees were captured by the local narco boss and killed. So can you imagine what happened with the share price of this company? And this is the reality of junior mining business in most of the world. That's why I'm personally investing mostly in the US, Canada, Australia. These are the mining.
But one question, because I know, for instance, the supply chain of chocolates, for instance, I know it from firsthand in South America. So you see a truck with chocolates and 2 trucks, one in front, one in the back with soldiers. Okay. Yeah. So I would suppose if you have silver, which is, I would say, probably rather more expensive than chocolate, you have 2 on the front, 2 on the back, but you still can guard them, right?
No. The mining produces concentrates. It does not produce a final metal. So the truck has sand inside. It's not silver in terms of silver the way you imagine it. So you don't need to have this kind of security. Of course, if you have a metallurgical plant next to the mining site, so they are producing the metal.
So
yeah, exactly. But just I wanted to give you an example of something that can go very, very wrong. And when you have extraction, mine sites, a little bit of a bigger flood can destroy a mine. And I had 2 cases where I had investments in companies that had one mine and it got destroyed. So
it's
they
all
went
over.
to zero.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is really a huge risk with mining. However, if you have, I don't know, silver coins or golden coins or whatever, this cannot go to zero. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
already done. It's a done deal.
This goes to zero in case somebody steals it from you. This can go really wrong. That's why I personally never buy physical metal. I don't know what to do with it.
You put it in a safe. I do it like I put it in a safe. I know
Okay.
somebody else here to also put it in a safe, right?
Okay.
Because you have it in your hand, because otherwise it's in somebody's deposit in
True.
Luxembourg. Okay.
True. It's not my way of investment. And I can say, the reason to invest in mining shares, it's very simple. They multiply the price of the metal. So when gold goes 1%, the good mining shares, they might go up 2, 3, 4, 5%.
So it's exponential, like
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what you want to see. Yeah. Of course, nobody guarantees this, and the market sometimes, sleeps, because the market looks at the gold price currently $5,000, something like this, and they simply don't believe that it will stay there. So the mining shares, their valuations are still based on 2,500, 3,000.
Would you say that they're undervalued right
They
now?
are heavily undervalued.
So no financial advice, but I'll tell you what I do afterwards.
And this is especially true for silver, because in the case of gold, gold holds the price quite tough.
But you have in one of your podcasts, but I read also your article, you actually say that in 2026 you expect the silver to go much faster up than gold, right?
Yes. But this is a riskier bet. Let me put it like this. Definitely riskier bet. With the different metals, it's a very different story. Depends on so many variables. Gold is the only thing that is really sure, because the world is fracturing, and we all see it. We were very lucky to live in the world that was relatively peaceful during our lifetime in our region. Although, lately, the last 4 years, obviously in our region there is a war, but not very close to here. And I think we were, and this is due to the simple fact that the United States, they had this totally leading position. Nobody was in a position to somehow threaten the value of the dollar, or the fact that the US has the military hegemony on the world. This is changing in the last several years with the rise of China, mostly, and it can be seen in the price of gold.
If you allow me here, actually, I will go to one of the questions that we were saying. Is like, how do you see gold, the future of gold, and its role in the geopolitical activities around the world, and how do you see the interaction, like, of what is going to happen according to you, and how gold is going to move in the next 1, 2, 3 years?
If you follow the price of gold, the price of gold started really going up in October 22. It was about 1,600, 1,700 at this time. This was the time when the US and Europe decided that that all the American and European assets owned by Russia are not owned by Russia anymore, you know? So the world noticed, the whole world noticed. Even European countries noticed. And then they started buying gold like hell, you know. Every central bank in the world, led by China, but also Poland and many other countries, they started buying gold in quantities that are not comparable to anything in the past. Just because, you know, the world decided that, you know, obviously having American treasuries, you never know when the states will decide that it's their own. You know, Germany, for example, has their gold in the States. And they are now starting discussing, should we bring it back home, you know, because you don't know what Trump will decide.
Well, Trump is not playing really friendly towards you.
Was done by Biden, actually, in the past.
No,
with
but Trump
the
is
Russian assets.
pulling away from many treaties, from many contracts,
Yeah,
right? Which
yeah.
is the real threat right now, right?
I think what Trump is doing, it would have been done by somebody else in the States as well, because they entered kind of panic mode because China was overtaking the US in terms of practically everything. And the only really strong hands that they have, the US, is still the military and oil and gas.
There were actually articles that said that the son of Biden actually was playing with the Chinese, right? They were like the CIA got with some documents, so on. Potentially also Biden, but you never know, right?
So what is going on, according to me, is that we are in an era when, you know, there will be lots of friction, and when there is friction, the only asset in the world that goes up is gold. Many people believe that crypto might play this role. Looking at the prices, I don't see it. Crypto, you know, goes together with the price of the big tech companies.
Yeah, S&P usually they correlate.
Why it doesn't play this role, I don't know. You know, history shows that gold is what keeps value forever. The other thing that has kept value forever is silver. Until 1870 something, when at this time the US government decided that silver should not be money anymore. And then the silver price went down. Then in the 30s, maybe you have heard about this, in the 30s, the US government nationalized all the gold that people had, the privately owned gold. But very few people know that at this time, they nationalized also the silver that people had. So there was, you know, imagine in the US, they kind of, there were people spying on each other, you know, telling the government that my friend has silver, and they were going to get them. Really, that was a time when, you know, we don't want to see this coming again, but it's not impossible, I think. Anyway, so silver currently plays the role of industrial metal, and it's a very interesting role because silver, you need it for practically everything where you need the best possible electrical conductivity, because silver is the metal that has the best conductivity, much better than copper, and much better than aluminum, because these are the three kind of electrical metals. if I can, name them like this. So silver is something that we are not aware, but silver is everywhere in our computers, in every kind of electronics. It's very small on atomic level, very small quantities. In all possible, modern missiles, planes. The biggest now silver use in terms of industry is photovoltaic panels, because you need, it's called silver paste. You need it under the glass to have the electrical signal go to the grid. Something like 20% of all silver used goes to solar panels currently. The big use is weapons. Nobody knows how much is used in weapons, of course. And the most interesting part is all these big users, they actually don't care about the price, because silver is used in so little, quantities in there. In a Tesla car, for example, you have 4 times more silver than in a normal car with conventional engine. But the price of silver in the car is irrelevant. So they don't care. So this is the inelasticity of demand. On the other side, there is the inelasticity of supply, because silver is usually extracted from zinc, lead, copper, and gold ores. Only 25% is extracted from primary silver mines. And when you say primary silver mines are mines that make more than 30% of their income out of silver, which means, again, not really the only thing that you get. And the number of companies that are labeled primary silver mines are, you can count them on 2 hands. So not too many. Market is very tricky.
But do you stay by what I heard from your podcast, that you expect silver to grow, and what would be the driver of this potential growth in 26?
The driver is very simple. We are in the 8th year of deficit. So we have 8 years, one after the other, of more silver used than silver extracted from the earth. And together with the recycled, so the mined silver and recycled silver are less, and the difference is about 20% less than what is used in industry. And now there is this very interesting part. People started hoarding silver again, something that, didn't happen like 5 years ago. And not only people, companies, and there are some central banks that are starting buying silver, which is a development that is bringing the financial system 1.5 centuries back to the past.
But why are they buying the silver? When they're buying gold, why do they need silver?
Many people cannot buy gold. It's too expensive, and they buy silver, especially in India and countries like this. With respect to the banks, I don't know. They see potential value there as well. I don't know. It's very interesting that there are some companies. Tether is a well-known, crypto bank. They, in the last several months, they bought more than 100 tons of gold. So they have more gold than most of the countries in the world already, and they're buying like hell. They are buying, they want to back all their crypto stuff.
But they have stablecoin, right? So it's potential there, but they are basically backing up it's either dollars or
probably
gold, right?
this is something that never happened before in history, you know, companies buying gold in these quantities. And they are also buying the shares of royalty gold and silver companies. So the royalty companies in this business they have very specific business model. So you have the normal miners, and you have the royalty companies that are actually financing miners. And out of this financing, they don't get simply, you know, money in return like a bank. They get the stream of gold or silver or specific metals that are extracted by the mine. So the royalty company buys the future production. Okay, so they give you like $1 billion so that you can open your mine, but then you commit that they get 10% of your future production. Okay, so these companies are very interesting businesses.
Like venture capital in
something like this. But imagine Franco-Nevada. Franco-Nevada is the biggest company that in this business. Nobody knows it. Maybe, I don't know, 50 people making so many billions out of all these deals. So the per employee, they make more money than any other company in the world. Nobody can beat the Franco-Nevada and Wheaton Precious and all these companies. They have very specific business model. I have several, you know, royalty companies also in the fund.
In the fund. Actually, here, if you allow me, just a question, because I looked at, so for those who don't know, the fund that Boyan is advising and leading actually made 46% growth in 25. I actually looked for comparable funds in Europe. I find a few, but the highest I found was 28% actually in the last year. Many don't have their numbers open, right? But actually, I tried to dig deeper and to analyze these 46%, where they come from, because like when I looked in gold and it just didn't add up. So what is the highest driver of these 46%?
The biggest driver last year, it's very interesting because last year, every single investment kind of thesis that I had paid off, which is not happening very often. Usually, we start the year with, I don't know, 5 to 6 different, I call them investment theses, like theories that you believe that will happen, and you buy shares believing that something will happen. So the price of gold played for us, the price of silver, the price of copper.
Copper is also one thing that you say that it will grow in the next
platinum
year.
And palladium, the platinum group metals. The price of oil didn't play with us, but there I invest in service companies, the companies that are bringing the equipment, and the companies that are selling services to oil and gas extraction. And these companies are very specific businesses. There is a huge deficit in terms of drilling rigs, this kind of things, because in the last 10 years, the world believed that we may not need oil and gas and this kind of things for the future. So a huge drilling platform that is used in the so-called high seas, with 3,000 meter deep ocean and stuff like this, costs you something like $1 billion to build. And nobody invests in these things anymore in the last many years, because there was this idea that we are making the energy transition and we don't need these kind of things anymore. Well, not really true. I have to say, I also believed in this kind of utopia maybe 7 to 8 years ago. But then when you follow the numbers, you see that it's not happening. We are increasing all the renewable energy. We're investing a lot in energy efficiency. We have the electric cars and everything, but we still need more oil and gas and coal even every year. That's the reality on a global level. In specific countries, things are different, especially in countries where the heavy industry is dying. You don't need all this stuff to have big steel plants or smelters or whatever. If you don't have them, you simply buy the stuff from China, right? But this logic doesn't really work anymore. How did I end up with this? I don't know.
We were talking about what is the driver of the 46% of the fund, and we switched to oil.
And also uranium. Uranium was something that paid off a lot. Because, looking at what Trump was talking before the elections, and when you look, the first day he went to office, he signed the energy charter or whatever, I don't know how it was called. And there you could see what will make money in the US and the world in the next 4 years. It was written there. Okay? So the Trump administration started supporting nuclear energy a lot. When I looked at the choice of the energy secretary, he's a guy who was working in renewables in the past, a really energy guy, engineer, who had a startup with small and medium, small modular reactors, nuclear reactors. And then he ended up being a CEO of Liberty Energy, which is a shale gas drilling services company. So, and he became the energy secretary. So if you look at what he has done, you go for these shares, and then they were exploding. So it was very kind of logical. I really don't understand why people get surprised by what the American, by what Trump is doing and his administration, because he promised all these things. And especially in Europe, we get very surprised that a politician does what he promised.
I think we're more surprised the way he talks and the way he does a few things, right? The way, what he does.
Forget about the way. The fact is that he's doing what he promised to do, so that's it. Of course, nobody expects him, to send the U.S. military to Greenland or something like this, but he does things. Anyway, so these were the several investment theses, and they all worked out. So we had specific companies that made very nice growth, especially after the April shock. Maybe you remember in April 25 was, everything went down when Trump opened the Pandora box with the tariffs.
We had a meeting about this actually.
Yeah. So, and after that was a great moment to buy anything because the market again reacted very unreasonably. Everybody was selling everything as if the end of the world was coming. For the first time ever, I have never done this before, but then I posted on my Facebook page, buy. Whatever you like, buy it.
How was this? Buy when everybody's scared and sell when everybody's greedy, right?
Exactly. So this time I bought even some coal mining shares in the US, and they made 4 times profit until today. which is not bad.
To be honest, I wish I knew about like what you do like earlier. So yeah, okay.
So these are and currently, if I look at the structure of the fund, the exposure to gold and silver mining is about 50% now, very heavy. Because I still, for me, gold is the most secure bet. Silver is a bet with very big potential still to go up. Today, the Chinese market opened. There was the Chinese New Year last week. The Chinese market was closed. The price of silver, everybody was expecting that the price of silver might go down because when the Chinese are not there, the physical buyer is missing. And on the COMEX, people are trading paper silver, so-called, just ETFs and stuff. No, there is very little physical buying. The physical buying is in China because the industry is in China. So the Chinese companies that need the silver to produce something, they buy it on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. Anyway, so the Chinese market was closed. Silver didn't fall. Silver was actually went up the last week. And today the Chinese market opened. And again, in China, silver costs more than 10% more than in London and in New York, which is a clear signal that there is a big dislocation between the physical market and the paper market. And if the physical market has a very clear direction, it always wins. It's a question of time only. So silver is a big bet. Uranium is still a very big bet for me because it's a very long-term. All these investments, they are long-term. They can make huge movements. I don't advise anybody to try to trade all these movements because it's very tricky.
Generally, no investment advice, right?
But the uranium market is, everybody remembers Fukushima. After Fukushima, most of the uranium mining in the world simply stopped. Nobody invested in uranium mines because we had
Germany canceled
because
nuclear
we
reactors
had so many nuclear
forever.
reactors that were closed, and at the same time we still had the disarmament of the Russian and the US missiles, which was a big quantity of uranium that was actually taken out of the missiles and used in after processing, used in nuclear power stations. So, but all this material is gone. The problem is nobody put the money in mining, and mining does not work with like this. Mining needs lots of time. To open a uranium mine in the world, you need many, many years. In Europe, it takes an eternity because it never happens. Just to give you an example, in Bulgaria, we were one of the actually relatively big uranium producers during communist times. Bulgaria was delivering 1.6% of the global uranium ore in '89, and then in 1990 they practically closed everything. From environmental point of view, the way they closed all these mines, I can tell you that it's probably worse if they stay as they are than if they get opened and somebody really manages the site. Because currently they are not really managed.
One question here, because I always heard that basically our production, different industrial sectors, was so old that they needed to close it because it was not profitable. How does it look in this sector? Like, are we really were we, because it's already gone for long years, but like, were we so bad? Was it so old, the equipment and the
I don't
processes that
know.
we
Yeah,
have?
specifically for this sector, I can't really tell
Okay.
you. The point is, we were extracting uranium ore, and it went to the Soviet Union for enrichment. So we never had the opportunity to produce our own nuclear fuel, which is wrong. Yeah, but that's it. And what is the situation of if you compare the ore bodies in Bulgaria with what they have in Canada, Kazakhstan, Namibia, of course, it's a joke what we have. So in other countries, they have really very rich uranium deposits. But the uranium market is very interesting because it's very, very concentrated. Kazakhstan has this huge national company, Kazatomprom, that is producing 40% of the global uranium ore. 40% is huge. And this is Kazakhstan, which means tomorrow China and Russia can decide that they like it very much, and the rest of the world will not have access to this material, which would be a very big catastrophe for the nuclear power plants all over the place, because there is not enough material. And that's why all these new companies and new projects, and the Canadian and the American, the Australian, they are, the stock exchange likes them a lot because they really get promoted by the governments, especially in the US.
Would you allow me just here to go back to the precious metals and basically all the different materials that we talked about? So you still believe in the future of gold, you still believe in the future of silver, you still believe in the future of uranium, you still believe in the future of platinum, right? So how do you see actually...
Platinum is tricky. Platinum is a tricky concept.
No, but okay.
Copper.
Okay.
Copper is the one that is really, you can rely on it, because copper is really something that is everywhere. Copper is, that's why it's called Dr. Copper, yeah, that because it shows the strength of the economy. And it shows the strength of the economy because it's everywhere. Yeah? It's in every application, everything that you call a machine, there is copper inside. And in every house, there is lots of copper wiring and stuff. And people believe that copper is one of the very few metals that is perfectly recyclable. So you can recycle copper to the same quality as virgin copper, unlike steel, for example. With steel, you cannot recycle it to the same quality.
There's always something in it.
Yeah, there is something tricky always.
A question here, because like I looked at the development in the last 10 years of different metals, and I actually compared to crypto and to assets, but just to stay in with this field, like gold and silver were like in the last 10 years, they developed like almost 4 times, right? This is roundabout, like 4 times more expensive. Like gold was 1,100 and now it's around 5. So 4 point something, right? And silver is similar, and I think platinum is similar. But I saw that copper is actually 50% more.
Well, you don't want to see copper jumping too much, because this means that we will be all very poor. If the price of copper goes vertical as the price of silver, the world stops. Really, this is something we don't want to see. But the price.
But why is it like that?
Because copper is a huge quantity needed for everything, and there are so many sources of copper. There are so many applications. The market is huge. I mean, when we talk about copper, we talk about 30 million tons per year. 30 million is the consumption. the mining gives you about 23 million tons. The rest is recycling, 30 million tons per year. Now, if we want to really achieve what policy wants out of the energy transition, the net zero goal to 2050, we in the next 25 years we need to mine the same quantity of copper that was mined throughout history until now, which is really big.
So we will be very poor, I see, because this is almost impossible. So it will go up because of the
It
demand.
is practically impossible. It is practically impossible. So that's why the energy transition will not happen so fast. There are physical limits to all these things. But we see that, and now the latest data that I found was really shocking. AI, the energy transition was enough in terms of copper demand, but now comes AI, right? And AI means lots of metals plus lots of energy. And energy usually means more metals as well.
Cables and so on.
Especially if you want to have renewable energy. But when I saw the numbers, this is really shocking. The AI data centers, I still don't understand why exactly, but they are very different from the normal data centers in terms of copper and silver consumption. The copper consumption per megawatt installed, computing power in an AI data center is 38 times more than in a traditional data center, which is shocking for me, because this 38 times more per unit, then you take the fact that in AI data centers you need 100 times more energy, more computing power than in a traditional data center, and then the end consumption of copper becomes something that
38 times
that nobody can calculate how much it is. Now it's very important to note that people tend to innovate very fast and find solutions to everything. And there is the other fact that the geological world is practically limitless. That the quantity of copper that we have in the earth crust, it will be enough for thousands of years. The problem with extracting it is not the geology. It is usually the price. It is that people don't like to have mines anymore. And this is not true only for Europeans. This is true for everybody. Nobody wants to have mines. And the other big limit is in the energy consumption, because in the past, if you extract copper from the surface and the ore content is like 5% copper content in the ore, compared to extracting copper from 3,000 meters below ground, and ore content is 0.2, as it is in Nasarel, for example, in Bulgaria. In order to get this copper, you need so much more energy and so much more water and so much more, many other things, that it gets really, really expensive, to do it. So, but the fact is, the material is there. We can get it. If we have the energy, we can get it. And we tend to find new ways to extract copper. There are different minerals which in the past nobody knew how to extract copper from them, but now we know how to extract copper from them, using different processes and so on and so on. So there is no, if somebody tells you that copper supply is not enough, we cannot survive, something like this, forget it. It's not true. People will find a way, always. The question is how much it costs,
Yeah.
and how you can make money out of it. This is the big question.
I have two more questions that I would like to ask you because we have around 10 to 15 minutes more of our discussion. Then will be for you to ask your questions. But one question, if you allow me, we didn't discuss this one. It's more provocative.
Yeah.
And then the last one would be more about energy. So to shift a little bit gears. But the first one, if you're okay, like I looked at the multiples, like in the last 10 years, different assets, how they grew. So we have silver and gold about 4 to 5 times. We have copper about 30 to 50%. We have platinum, palladium. I think it's similar to gold. Then we have Bitcoin, which grew 105 times. We have the stock of NVIDIA, which grew about 600 times. So what would be your case for people to invest in rare materials then let's say crypto, let's say then stocks like NVIDIA? Okay, stocks like NVIDIA, they're unicorns, we know, but again, it's quite a difference. So what would be the case? How would you do that?
It's the best thing to do is always to find the unicorn when it's still very small, right? Like buying NVIDIA in the year 2000 or something like this. Now, this is a nice hit, but you would probably sell it in 2005, when it's 10 times more expensive.
True.
Might be, so you miss the big thing. Anyway, what is happening currently, there is a very unfortunate detachment of the digital world between the digital and the physical world. Today I wrote an article about this actually in the morning. I usually wake up at 5:30 and I write an article until 7 before I bring my kid to school. There is a process that is, according to me, coming to an end. Actually, you can see it in the price of crypto and the price of the Magnificent Seven in the last several months. They are not skyrocketing anymore. And you know why? Because they hit the physical wall. And the physical wall, you can see it in their capex. So about 3 to 4 years ago, before ChatGPT appeared, the capex of Microsoft, Meta, whatever, was a joke compared to the income that they were making and the profits that they were making. Now, for 2026, the capital investments of the big four, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple, will be about $660 billion. They are all going to negative cash flow, all of them. This is the AI, revolution that needs lots of metal and energy. And they are putting their money now in infrastructure, in reality.
So they're preparing for what is about to come.
Yeah, and this makes them, until literally until yesterday, mining and oil and gas were the big capital-intensive businesses in this world. Now, the most capital-intensive businesses in this world are Microsoft and all the others, because it costs so much, and they are rushing. They are in a competition to spend more money. Can you imagine? I mean, this is, and we are not talking, about small money here. And this money goes into metals and energy, again, very important. So they are becoming the mining companies of the future somehow. And this changes completely the business model.
But when you said they're hitting a wall, do you mean that there is no more production possible, or what is the wall that you mean?
They, in order to, if they really make the profits that can make for these investments, then the whole world has to pay them everything. I don't know how the economy will survive in this situation. And this is just the American side. The Chinese are doing the same. We just don't know the numbers. And Europe is sleeping at the same time. We are in a kind of, we don't exist in this competition. Actually, there is this new guy from I think from Austria, from somewhere, who developed something that was a kind of something that the European Union believed that it will be the kind of AI thing of Europe, and he moved his company to the US. So the issue is that all the tech companies, they took over the economy so much that they kind of detached themselves from the physical reality. And in order to satisfy what they need now, you need the physical stuff, but nobody invested in the physical stuff. You have to invest in the physical stuff.
They're also a big part of S&P right now, actually. The Max 7 is a huge part of it. It's very correlated.
Well, that's why S&P is not going up in the last 2 months, because they are a little bit going down, because all this AI stuff that is obviously coming and doing the work of the software companies. It's very tricky what will happen.
But
there.
how long do you see this investment like going on in this hardware and this like mining and so on? Because for me as a retail investor, it means only one thing, okay? Because the price of stock is usually integrated the future earnings of this company. It's usually how it's done, right?
Yeah.
So if they had specific earnings till now, and then we project it in the future, and for once now this is going up. You said they're going cash negative, so this means that all they earn is going to cables, mining, and more than that, because for instance Apple is sitting on huge piles of money and they start spending this money on top of what they're earning. So how long is this going to go? Because for me as an investor is like, I'm thinking, okay, does it mean that they will be cash negative for the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years? Does it mean that they are not returning back? Does it mean that their prices will go down?
I don't know. I don't know, because there is a huge competition in terms of AI, and it cannot be that everybody is a winner, right? So there will be actually more losers than winners. It will be the same as the dot-com bubble in 1999.
I think it will be worse if it happens. Like the amounts are bigger.
This is what I believe. I'm not, I understand the mining and the energy business. I don't understand the IT business. I don't comment it too often. I just see that they are putting lots of money in infrastructure, which is feeding my investments, which is great, from my point of view. With mining, I understand what is the business model and what kind of money can be made if the price of certain metal goes up or down. With the IT companies, you never know from where some new solution will come and will kill you. It can kill you. NVIDIA might be the best now. Tomorrow, AMD might have something that is better than NVIDIA. You don't know. And the shares of these companies can go down very, very, very fast. In the mining business, the competition is not for the clients, the competition is to get access to the resource. So you don't compete on price practically. You don't compete because it's you create something that is commodity. You can sell it everywhere. So it's a very different business. And also with especially with the juniors, if you hit a junior before they really find a huge deposit, there you can make the so-called 100 baggers in a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is a lottery, right? You don't know how.
This is almost a lottery. This is almost a lottery, right?
If you allow me, because we're almost done, I actually would take 5 more minutes because I find it very interesting. If you would take 5 minutes to say, because you're so vast in your knowledge and what you've done, but like about the energy of the future, how does the energy market look like? Because we touched on it with the AI, with the data centers, but just for 5 minutes, and then I will open discussion to you to ask you questions. But I just want to touch on this one.
The energy of the future is it's a very, very locally specific question. The energy sources in one country depend on what the country has, right? In Norway, for example, you don't have too many solar panels. You don't rely on them, but you have lots of water. So they really built everything around the water flowing everywhere. And they have lots of wind, so they have a very nice combination. In Bulgaria, we have a good combination of sun. Unfortunately, the only fossil fuel that we have in big quantities is lignite, which is the worst.
Coal.
Lignite coal, yeah. In English, they don't use the word coal for lignite because it's a different thing. Lignite is like dry mud, something like this.
The worst part of coal. Like, I know in Bulgarian we call it lignitny vrglište.
Yeah, we call it coal in Bulgarian, but it's not coal in reality.
Okay.
So the lignite is really bad, but that's what we have. We have a little bit of hydropower. We have the nuclear power plant, which is great. We are really, kind of lucky that we have the power plant. Unfortunately, until now, we never had a nice gas deposit. Hopefully, we'll find one. Because gas is a very, very useful energy source. Actually, there are many. People like to talk about 100% renewables. Yeah, this is the big idea. In fact, if you look at the energy sources of different countries, there is nothing like 100% renewables, but there is 100% gas. And there are many countries actually running on 100% gas because gas can play all roles in the energy system. It can be baseload power, it can be balancing, it can be the peak power as well. So gas is the perfect fuel. In Qatar, it's gas. And now they have solar, of course, because they have so much sun. And the gas, they prefer to sell it to the European Union that pays more. So why burn it there? And the future of energy is very simple. It will be a mixture of everything. Everything, depending on the place, depending on how much nuclear energy you have developed, because nuclear energy at the end of the day is the best thing for base load, for huge capacity. And if you want to have lots of data centers and big industry, you need nuclear energy. Practically.
I'll ask you a bit jokingly in Bulgarian. We say, "Аз за един приятел питам." But what would you bet on? Basically, this is within my question. So, what would you bet on? Where would you put your money on?
Currently, if I look at the structure of the fund now, I can tell you that we have lots of money on uranium production, which means nuclear, and we have quite a good chunk of investment into natural gas production in the US, because all these big data centers, they happen there. right? We talk about it here, but they happen in the States.
So
And
the energy for the data centers will come from gas.
mostly from gas. Now, the newest project that I read about yesterday is 9.2 gigawatt hours of gas power greenfield project in the middle of Pennsylvania, somewhere there. 9.2 gigawatt hours is bigger than the total capacity, electrical capacity of Bulgaria, of everything, the nuclear power plant, the lignite power plants, everything. Yeah? And this is just gas. They have so much gas in the US. And there are regions where the gas price is close to zero or even negative, because the shale oil industry produces so much oil and they don't have the pipelines to get rid of the gas, to send it to the LNG plants to sell it to Europe.
It's a byproduct that's on top of the oil, right?
Yeah. So, and there are specific companies operating in these regions which now are welcoming the data centers of Microsoft and all the others because they are looking for the cheap gas. The problem is there are not enough gas turbines. The world cannot produce enough gas turbines to satisfy this demand.
So companies that produce gas turbines should be going up.
They went up already, too late. Siemens, GE, all these companies that are producing gas turbines, they are skyrocketing. Yeah, in Germany, it's exactly happening this. Gas in the States is something that will go up in value, according to me, because the internal consumption is huge. The consumption for export is huge. The geology cannot get enough. Yeah? So these are the biggest energy bets that we are having currently.
Okay, thank you so much for this. Now I open the discussion for you guys. If you have questions, it was extremely interesting to me. I hoped for you too, but share your questions.
I have a question. How do you manage the risk? I think,
I don't know if
can you hear me? I don't know. I can.
we can, but I don't know if they.
Okay, good. So my question is, how do you manage the risk in the fund?
The risk?
Yeah.
First of all, if you read about the fund, you find out that there is a risk scale according to KFN.
Yeah.
And we are 6 out of 7, so we are very risky bet.
Exactly. I wrote this. Yeah. Yeah.
How we manage the risk? First of all, we try to have at least 5 different investment theses that are not dependent on each other. Okay, so as I said, gold, silver, copper, uranium, gas, several. And we try to distribute the investment, relatively. Currently, it's precious metals weighted too much, just because I see that we are making really big money there. The other very important risk management tool in extractive industries is to not to go into regions where for example, I was lucky that we didn't have a single Russian company when the war started, because what happened with all the Russian stocks.
Actually strange, right? Because there is a lot of the production.
There is lots of production, but you always have this in mind that something might happen there that you don't want to see it. Eh?
Is it true that in Ukraine there's a huge pile of gas, and this is probably one of the reasons for the war? Like that they discovered that there.
I don't know of very, very big deposit. Probably there is something, but it cannot be so important. The other thing is that we are not going into all these junior companies that are very tricky. We don't want to have a company that goes bankrupt, because of a certain reason. So we never invest in mining companies that have just one asset, because if you have one asset and something happens there, you go down in this business. We try to invest in medium companies with 2, 3, 4 assets, but not in the big ones. Like in the gold business, Newmont is the big company that has, I don't know, 12, 13 mines in the world. However, the price of Newmont doesn't really react so much to the change of the price of the metal. The price of smaller companies reacts better. So, of course, if the price of the metal goes down, then the price of these smaller companies goes down even harder. So this is tricky. We avoid Europe because in energy and mining, you don't want to mess with Europe. Europe is the shithole of these businesses in the world. Unfortunately, that's the reality. In Europe, we have several European stocks that are companies providing services to oil and gas or to mining businesses, where it's still possible to do it out of Europe. But to operate a real mine in Europe is so difficult that you cannot really make proper money. So why invest? What else? When we make 2 big profits out of any single investment, we sell a little bit, because to cash the profit and put it into a different investment thesis. And this is the structure of the fund is not allowed to have a single position that is more than 10% of the whole portfolio. So if a single company becomes so expensive that it's more than 10% of the whole portfolio, we have to sell anyway. And there is a second rule that is the companies that have more than 5% of the whole portfolio, there are several usually, cannot jump beyond 40%. So the 5+ companies cannot make more than 40%. So this is the other rule that you have to obey. So you have to cut some of these companies when they reach. Yeah. But these are the rules coming from the Financial Commission. I don't know what else.
Okay, thank you.
We have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Okay, I know you.
Thank you. Well, my question is about data centers. So we discussed that they're going to consume much more energy. So one thing I read recently was very interesting, that they're planning to put data centers in space rather than on Earth. And it makes
planning is not the right word. It's Elon Musk said, we'll put them there.
But it's not just Elon, but also other people. And it makes a lot of sense thinking about it, that in space you have more solar energy, more irradiation, but you can also turn the satellite towards the sun, so you have 24/7, and you have very cheap cooling, which is like a big part of the data center.
You don't need any cooling, practically.
Yeah, you have outer space, which is very cold. So some people were discussing that maybe this boom in energy will not last that long. So I want to see what's your opinion on this and how you think about it.
I never calculated how much material we have to launch into space in order to do something like this, and how much energy we would need to actually launch it into space. Because it's when you look at the scale of the data centers, covering tens of square kilometers, looking at them, I can't really imagine how we can launch them into space, because you have to fight gravity for a very big quantity of material. So maybe one day it will happen, but I don't see it potentially in the next 5 years. And beyond the next 5 years, I don't think that anybody can actually make any prediction. Things are developing so fast that you don't know.
Short to midterm, not happening.
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, actually, my question is going back to gold and silver. In your opinion, what has to happen in the world so the price of gold and silver tremendously drops? Or let's say in a scenario in which there is a big war in the Middle East involving Iran, how will gold and silver react to that? Or in case in which the war in Ukraine is over and let's say we have relative stability again, how will they react?
Every other war feeds gold and silver, so the price goes up.
One more war?
Yeah, definitely. Gold because it's the ultimate asset. Silver because you need it for the weapons. Now, the only thing that can stop gold going up is that suddenly countries and governments in the world start behaving kind of as normal people. Normal people cannot increase debt until the end. But the governments, they do it. So every government does it, especially the American government. If you calculate the value of the American debt and take the value and take the gold in the Federal Reserve, as collateral, you see that the price of gold should be something like $150,000. So there is no end, and the American debt is increasing in a way that it cannot be stopped. I don't see any way, and this is the same for France, Japan, whatever country. Name a country, it's the same. Germany started this game as well now with the rearmament of Europe. So I don't see how this can happen, because governments, every politician, they tend to promise something, and when you promise something to the people, you need to print money to deliver. Otherwise, there is no other way to deliver. So I don't see really for gold, I don't see a kind of scenario that can lead to gold price going down. The gold price went down in the 90s. It went up in 1980, and then it started going down in the 90s, and it reached the minimum price in the last, I don't know how many years, of something like $250 in the year 2000. In the 90s, the US became the country that governed the world. So the Soviet Union was such a position that nobody could think of an asset that is more valuable than having dollars and having American treasuries, right? But then the price of gold started going up. And it started going up because the American debt was going up and up and up. And it became very clear that this has no end. So I don't see how gold goes down. Even if there are no wars, even if the war in Ukraine stops suddenly.
Okay, so you're saying it's not going to go down? I don't need it. Can everybody hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
so
for the others.
Okay, so I'm not saying you're not saying it's going to go down, but what is the upside potential? What you think based on the Federal Reserve policy of reducing quantitative easing, which is a plan which was announced by the Federal Reserve chairman in the US and then also the European Central Bank, you think that limited printing of money would actually limit the growth potential? Because I think there's a sort of a close correlation between the
Yes.
money in circulation, which is about 21 trillion right now in the US,
Exactly.
and the price of gold. So you think that correlation that would slow the growth? So basically, it's not going to be a good asset in the future if the money printing process slows down. What do you think about that hypothesis?
If the money printing process slows down,
Mhm.
then the price of gold will not go up so fast anymore.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's a limited upside potential and downside
Absolutely.
potential as well.
But I don't believe that they will actually do it. You know, I believe that they will continue printing money because there is how to say, they don't have enough money to pay the debt.
Yeah, but
Ivan.
with technical revolutions such as the chat GPT and all that, that would increase the productivity of the economy. So when GDP
This is the
grows,
hope. This is
Yeah.
the hope. AI can really solve the problem
okay,
if it increases the productivity so much as certain people expect. Then, if a person produces 5 times more than 2 years ago, thanks to AI, this might solve the problem with the debt.
so you would
Right.
recognize that a bunch of factors can influence the including the limited printing of money, the increase in production based on the artificial intelligence models, then also the relative strength of the US dollar, which is expected right now. I mean, it's in a downturn mode, but it's not going to continue for too long because there's no safer currency.
There's no other currency.
There's
to
no other
substitute.
currency. Yeah, the euro is just shit, like the economy of Europe anyway. So yeah, we share the same mentality about that. But then again, so all these factors, they impact basically the price, the price increase potential of gold, right? So basically,
Right.
it's sort of a hedging asset rather than something that you would want to invest in proactively and put in your portfolio as a growth potential rather than
That's why I'm not buying gold physical. I'm buying the mining shares. And when I see that they are not growing anymore, I just go out of them.
And then last question, if he would allow me.
Yeah.
What basis do you use to select the mining companies? Basically, are these small companies, mid caps?
Mid caps.
Mid caps. So they listed on Nasdaq and New York Stock Exchange, or are they listed on other?
on usually in Toronto.
So the Canadian stocks.
Mostly the Canadian.
So that you carry the political risk.
Well, that's true. That's true. However, they don't really operate in Canada. Most of them, they operate all over the place. But
ownership is based in Canada, though.
The political risk with Canada is existing. I admit this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering.
Okay, so last question, if anybody has something. Somebody smart people? Nobody. Okay.
Thank you.
So here I express my gratitude for you taking the time. It was really mind blowing. I really loved it. Like, you shared so much information. I think like Boyan is also part of our discussion group in WhatsApp. So I think if you want, you can post a question, and then if he has the time, he can answer that. It will be great if you stay there. I would love it, and potentially in the future, probably make another meeting at some point.
Will probably stay. It will be interesting for me to hear, other points of view. And if somebody wants to follow what talking and discussing, Facebook is the best place. And I have a blog called mindyourfuture.org, which is
I think you will have a few new followers there.
Like half a year ago. And there I share, this kind of irregular thoughts that are coming to my mind very often.
Great. Thank you so much for this. So as said, thanks to all of you for attending. I also would like to thank Nadia and Luben for helping out. And it wouldn't be without them, actually, like the microphones, all the issues we had. Also, Sergey, he also helped a lot. Thank you so much for this. Yeah, true. And then actually this is, I think, the 14th no, not recording, but the 14th meeting, and probably the 9th recording we have. So great that you're here, that we're making this all possible. Now we have a reserved table at Happy in Mall of Sofia. I would kindly ask somebody to be there at 9. I will probably not manage to do this. It will be great if you come there. We will be sharing and talking, and if you have the time.
My wife will kill me.
We invite her too. She can come back.
No, it's difficult to manage.
Okay, so with this,
Dobry knows what I'm talking about. Dobry knows.
okay, with this, I will close the meeting. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and see you next time in March. Super,